Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Break the ISAK podcast. Today's the third episode, and it's going to be about the activities program here at UWC ISAK Japan. I'm Anna, and I'm co-hosting with Caleb, and we're having some guests. So I would like to ask for your name, grade, your club, and your club involvement and position. So let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Kyria. I'm in G12 and I'm a leader of Rainbow Alliance, a club that supports the LGBT community here at ISAK and in the wider community.
I am Allie. I'm in G11 and I'm the club leader for Volleyball Club.
Hello, I'm Konstantinos. I'm also G11 and I'm part of SNOW, the student body, basically, the student council.
Thank you guys for those introductions. So I think maybe we can go around one more time and maybe you guys can all give us kind of an idea of the history of the club, how it started and how you personally got involved in it.
So what about Rainbow Alliance?
So at Rainbow Alliance, the school's always had some sort of gay straight alliance, an LGBT group, and then our seniors 2 years ago started working harder to create more change in the school by being more organized. And so since then, we have been working on pastoral care sessions, attending things outside of Kyria and being a safe space within the own ISAK community.
Thank you. What about volleyball?
So for volleyball, ISAK has always had a volleyball club. Last year it was run by a former teacher, Lindsay, and this year it's run by students instead.
Great.
So, I'm going to talk about SNOW. And SNOW has quite a long history in the school. It started a few years ago with students who were unhappy with some of the rules in the school and wanted to change something. So they created SNOW, and its two main purposes to create assemblies and to solve problems within the school. And this year we decided to take some changes in direction and try to include the whole school community more.
So for non-ISAK listeners, SNOW is basically the student government of the school, right? The student council.
Yes, that's correct.
Allie, you mentioned that this year volleyball is being led by students as opposed to in previous years it's been led by a teacher. So as one of the leaders of the club, how do you hold everyone accountable and how do you stay motivated as a leader when things go bad?
When it comes to holding everyone accountable, we have attendance, and then if you don't attend 3 or more practices, we'll kick you out. And to stay motivated as a leader, it's hard because there's a lot of practices and sometimes people don't show up or they're not happy with the practice menu. And when I talk to the other team leaders, we just try to just motivate ourselves, and it's rewarding to know that everyone enjoys the practice or that we reach a goal that we achieve or that we want. Yeah.
Thank you. And how do you stay motivated as a leader when things go bad, as you mentioned? Like when people are not that happy about the practices or about like having the responsibility to go to practice when they are too busy with IB or with life in general. And how do you manage to show up every time and lead them and provide motivation?
Yeah, I think that honestly as well. I think it can be difficult sometimes because you are a student as well. So like say, when your best friend doesn't show up to practice and things like that, how do you kind of deal with those issues?
I'd say what we all try to do is just be direct and tell them it's just be honest and try to solve the problem directly instead of trying to curve around the corner because it doesn't get us anywhere. So that's.
Thank you. So Konstantinos, how do you think the SNOW is different from maybe another typical school's kind of student body and the maybe power that you guys wield or the things that you guys organize?
So you mentioned power, and I think One of the main differences with maybe other schools or the student governments, the student bodies in other schools, is that we, at least this year, we've tried to not hold too much power. We've tried to spread it out over the school. And also we're not as much focused on issues within the school, how another maybe student government would be, but we're trying to create a community and make everyone feel included. So just improve the overall school environment other than act after something has happened.
Speaking of power and how Snow is kind of viewed as this more powerful club because it is core, could we talk a little bit about core clubs and the system at ISAK? So maybe, Kyria, could you explain the basics of this school's system in terms of clubs and activities? So the distinction between student-led activities, active sports, and core clubs.
Yeah, of course. So I think the main difference between core and student-led is core clubs, they fit within some specific categories the school has outlined, such as diversity and inclusion, Japanese culture, stewardship and sustainability, which are all things that the school finds to be really important. And so they are categorizing clubs which do this and reach a certain number of members, and that really resonate with our school's identity and mission. And they allow these clubs to have different opportunities, but more than this, every student must be a member of at least one core activity, so they are engaging with some of the school's core values.
Thank you. This is so interesting for new students to hear, I think, and even for listeners outside of the ISAK community, because it's not really a common practice among other schools. And I think that ISAK has this distinct mission, even among QWCs, and it focuses a lot on leadership, but leadership comes with like conditions. So could you maybe, Konstantinos, tell us about the rules of how the minimal requirements are for applying for budget, for example?
What are the minimal requirements for applying for a budget? Basically, we have a team of students coordinated by one of the teachers, Mr. McGibbon, and together they hold meetings for the 3 different types of clubs we have. One of them you mentioned is core. The other one is student-led, which is not very different than core, but it's a bit more unstable and could change from year to year. And the active sports. So those students, together with Mr. McGibbon, hold meetings for each of those groups, and anyone can request budget. Any club leader can request budget, as long as they've outlined what they need, why they need, and shown that they have a sustainable way to get it, because sustainability is a big focus in ISAK. We do not want to pollute the environment. And as long as they have those requirements, they can fill out their budget form, and it will be approved or not by the rest of the club leaders.
Got it. Thank you. Kyria, so I'm curious, what are some of the challenges that you face leading a club that discusses a topic that is kind of taboo in Japan?
I think before even thinking about the taboo of the Japanese context, I think the context of being an international student at an international school is even more impactful in the way we work, as everyone comes from a different culture with different views on the LGBT community and stuff like that. Even within the club, we all hold different views because we all come from really different cultures. So I think the biggest challenge here is sensitivity, as some people are raised with specific views, maybe associated with religion, and things like this, and you have to be really sensitive when discussing things like this, especially when creating, for example, the pastoral care session, which was delivered to all students last year. and catering this information to people from a really wide range of knowledge bases and views.
Thank you so much for sharing. Honestly, I think it's very inspiring that against all odds, you still step up and try to create this diverse community where everyone feels safe and everyone can express themselves. I think Snow is kind of thriving for this balance in the community and maybe being even a bridge between the teachers and the faculty, the leadership of the school, and the student body. But you are only 7 members, right? How do you maintain an inclusive culture for over 200 students and faculty?
Yeah, definitely. We've been trying to keep this connection, as you said, between the faculty and the students, and we realized because turning Snow into an only 7-member club was decided this year, and we've realized throughout the course of these first months that it's not really possible for 7 students to organize the whole school, and that's why we came up with a committee system where we've created, and we're still trying to create, different committees to tackle different issues within the school, and also at the same time get the student body more included within the decision-making process.
Could you mention an example of a committee?
So one of the committees, for example, is the assembly committee that a lot of students are part of, and it's one of the currently running committees of the school. It organizes an assembly that we have every 3 weeks.
Thank you for that. So we were talking a little bit about community. Allie, so a big part of sports in other schools is kind of these inter-school competitions and games and things like that. So does volleyball plan any competitive matches or anything like that, or is it mostly scrimmages within the team?
We recently had a match with the boys volleyball team, and it went quite well. Although we lost, it was still a good experience and we learned a lot from it. We plan to organize matches with other Karuizawa high schools once COVID is better. Yeah, that's about it.
What are the other challenges that COVID posed to a team sport, a competitive team sport like that?
Well, with COVID, we weren't allowed to go to this match that we were invited to go to last year, this international competition among schools in Tokyo. And so that was one of the bigger issues, or not issues, the bigger thing that affected the volleyball team. And when we were first starting out, we didn't have all our members, so it was hard to make that community of a team. It was mainly just on people on campus that were attending clubs, and it was hard to engage everyone.
I think that's actually a good question. I think our other 2 guest speakers could maybe add to is how's COVID impacted your ability to run a club and organize things this year?
For Rainbow Alliance, at least, I think a large issue for us last year was not being able to complete the goals that we had set out. For example, we were planning on attending the Rainbow Pride in Tokyo in the spring. However, due to COVID-19, this was cancelled, and this was quite disappointing as this was one of the main things we had worked towards all year. And then this year, a challenge for us was, as well as learning how to be club leaders, we had to do this whilst hosting multiple online sessions for all the students who weren't on campus yet. And so this was quite time consuming and stressful. It was definitely worth it as it allowed us to create the community before we were even in the same space. So it was worth it, but it was a challenge.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Kyria that for Snow, the biggest challenge was trying to keep communication and keep a mutual understanding of what's going on between the students that were here in person and the students that were online, because more than 50% of the students in Snow were online until a week ago.
Kyria, so you mentioned a little bit about the Pride rally in Tokyo last year. Do you know if there's any events coming up like that, or that Rainbow Alliance is organizing this year?
Yeah, so what Rainbow Alliance is focusing on this year is more within our own community, because due to COVID-19, the situation is so unsure as to whether we can leave campus that much. However, with Project Core, which is another LGBT group on campus, however, this is a caste group rather than a club, they have established a connection with various international schools within Japan, specifically the LGBT groups within these. And so we as Rainbow Alliance plan on working with them, talking with them, and maybe hopefully in the future being able to meet with them. As of yet, we don't yet know what Pride events are going to be happening in the spring. So instead, we're going to be focusing on making this community at ISAK a really safe space, and a culture of learning for everyone, no matter if you are part of the LGBT community or not. And we're doing this through the pastoral care sessions and opening up our club to the community.
Could you elaborate on what the pastoral sessions are?
Oh, yes. So the pastoral sessions are something that it's taken a while to kick off this year, as houses kept moving and students are only just getting out of quarantine. But pastoral care sessions are where you, with your house, learn about important issues such as consent or relationship dynamics or use of social media and things like this. And this is done in the house with your house mentor. And so we as Rainbow Alliance created a session on LGBT and key things about this, as the range of knowledge on this topic really varies within the school because people come from such different backgrounds. And so this session really revolves around respect and understanding others. It doesn't have to, and showing that things don't have to agree with your views and the way you are raised, but how to be respectful and understanding no matter what.
Thank you. Konstantinos, maybe would you like to talk about things that Snow is kind of helping to plan, organize around the events that you guys are working towards right now, if any?
So right now our main focus is on getting the assemblies going and running. Like I mentioned, the committees, like I said before. It's really important to us to get them running because we do not want to be the ones to be taking decisions for 200 students of the school. Mm-hmm. We do not know what everyone wants, and we do not claim to know. So we want to include the community and let the students decide what they want to change, how they want to change it. And our main focus right now is on getting those committees running and making sure they're running smoothly.
So are assembly committee members and other committee members Snow members?
That's a really good question. Thank you. No, they are not. All the committees are separate from Snow, but coordinated by Snow. Mm. So they do their own thing, but we, the 7 Snow members, are there to bring them together, communicate what is happening between them, to be sure that everything is running smoothly, and also support if they need anything or if they need any extra support or ask to talk to any of the teachers or the faculty members.
Thank you for that. So I think this is another question that everyone can kind of add to. How do you guys manage to balance being a club leader and organizing all of the events that you guys do, as well as keeping up with the IB, which is a rather difficult diploma to obtain? So any thoughts on that, Konstantinos?
So for me as a G11 and only in the first semester of G11, things are not that hard now in subjects. So I think it hasn't been that hard to keep a balance between academic life and extracurriculars, but there's definitely been moments which are stressful, and it's just important to think about time management and set your priorities and make sure to only focus on one thing at once and not be distracted by anything else.
So for volleyball club, it's not that hard to manage at the moment because we have 2 other club leaders, and the practices are spaced out quite nicely, and there's a sense of time management, so it's quite easy to handle right now. Yeah.
And you have 2 clubs, right? The competitive one and the casual one. How are they different in terms of commitment?
I'd say they're both the same amount of commitment. It's just that one team is more focused on improving your skills and getting more comfortable with volleyball itself. And the other, for competitive, is more about the sense of a team and just trying to make that happen. Yeah.
So in terms of leading, it's just more sessions to attend and not really completely different plans, or how is it like?
Yeah, it's just attending more sessions. So in total, the 3 of us, the 3 club leaders, attend maybe 4 to 5 practices every week.
Wow, that's impressive, and a lot to handle.
It is
besides the IB diploma. So what about Rainbow Alliance?
I think for me as a G12 student, balancing this, it's been a learning curve for sure. For example, this time last year, I had bit off more than I can chew in terms of commitments, and that put a strain on my ability to do the IB. But what's really worked well with Rainbow Alliance is we have 3 leaders, and we, like Allie was saying, we can really depend on each other and rely on each other. For example, being a G12, if you have an IEA deadline that evening, we will communicate very well, and then we can trust each other to handle the club for that day, and that's been something that's been really, really helpful.
I know that Rainbow Alliance is presumably going to continue after this year, so maybe you can talk a little bit about the process of finding new G11s and G10s who are going to take over the leadership roles in the club and kind of transitioning away from that.
Yeah, so we're going to take this in a new way, as we haven't really experienced a normal leadership handover before, as last year we were left in such a rush because of COVID. But I think the plan is to look at who's been consistently engaged in the club through the year, if they've made any exceptional contributions and they seem to really care about the club and its goals, and it could take it in a fresh and new place. I think that's what we would look for. And if someone approaches us as well, we might be willing to hear why they think they would be a good leader.
But some clubs are exceptional in terms of new students leading them from the beginning, and I was, for example, very proud when a few of the G10s actually founded clubs like the Discover and Share African Culture, the ISAK club. So it's really, I think, easy to start clubs and to kind of climb up that ladder yourself in ISAK.
Yeah, I would say it depends though, as there are some clubs which obviously are much larger, and student leadership is a very large responsibility, such as with snow or with ice. I think that's...
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. So I think it might be about time now to start closing up this session. Do any of you have any final remarks that you'd like to add?
I guess I would like to thank you for inviting us here. I think it's really important to, even us as students, hear about other clubs and understand each other better and understand what everyone is doing and the challenges that come with every club.
Awesome. Thank you so much for attending. Really means a lot, guys.
And not only for attending, but for actively making the community at the school better and participating in leadership and really trying to make the experience of other ISAK students more colorful. We really appreciate it.
All right. I think that's about all the time we have for today. So Remember to check out our podcast. Will be on Spotify, and we're also on Apple Music and YouTube as well now at Break the ISAK. Remember, stay cool, break the ISAK.